Special episode today, everybody. We're going to be talking about two things at the same time, basically. We're going to be talking about how you can look into your garden and really analyze how you're growing what you need nutritionally and diversifying, while we also talk about our August update. So, our August challenge. So, stay tuned right here on the Backyard Gardens podcast.
To have a good harvest, one must plant good seeds and must also use the right kind of fertilizer. The carrots have grown large and firm. How good they will taste.
Welcome to the Backyard Gardens podcast, where we talk about all things gardening. We're your hosts, Ben and Batavia, and you can find me gardening in the country.
And you'll find me gardening in the city. Get ready as we dig deep into this
wonderful world of gardening, where we learn to grow and grow for change. All right, everybody, if you're new to the show, thank you for coming and joining us. And also, if you'd like to support the show, we are a listener-supported show, so please check us out on Patreon. You get 2 free episodes a month, amongst other things, and we're running giveaways and different chat features and all that fun stuff. So come check us out. And if you're on YouTube, what up, YouTube? Give us a subscribe. So, yeah, this is...
You're giving no time and room for the bell.
No, I got to keep this moving. Look, this is a short episode, and we got a lot to cover. But no, last year we did this August challenge, and basically, I'm going to let Batavia tell you what it is.
Yeah. So, because we've made a slight change from last year, but last year in a sentence was 31 days in August, eat lunch from your garden for 31 days, not adding something to your plate that you're having from lunch from the garden. The entire lunch was from the garden. And so that proved to be difficult for someone like that's sitting in this seat that's talking right now. Not necessarily because of it's a full meal from your garden, but the time that I needed to eat it in, right? Like sometimes I don't eat lunch, right? So with that said, the August Challenge 2022 edition is going to be eating a meal, one meal from your garden, 31 days of it.
Right. And just to clarify, we learned a lot about our gardens last year from this, and it doesn't matter when you're listening to this, try it. Mm-hmm. June, July, August, September, October, whatever, try it. And I'm telling you, you're going to learn a lot about the diversity that's growing within your garden. Mm-hmm. So this isn't just about the month of August. Now, we are releasing it in early August for the audio portion, so there's that. But, it's an interesting thing.
Let's dig a little bit deeper, because I don't know if we did an intro to it last year.
We did not. We discussed it, and then we backed off because we wanted to do it privately to see what would happen, and boy, oh boy. Well, do you want to say what our rules were?
Yeah, so a part of the reason, I want to say how we got to August. A part of the reason it was a compromise that we used August was Ben and I gardened in 2 different zones. We'll call mine Garden Zone 6 and his Garden Zone 8. And our production comes in, our harvests come in at different times, right? So you've been harvesting tomatoes for probably, a month and a half already?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. And so I'm getting like a cherry tomato here or there. So that's a good example, whether it's tomatoes or other things, that the kind of big part of my harvest really don't start until August. And when Ben and I talked about this going back to probably 2020 and wanting to do it, we wanted to choose a month where our bounty would be enough to sustain us for 31 meals, right? Where he is and where I am. Now, the challenge and the reason why it was a compromise, and I appreciate it, is we're going into August and it's like, summer storms, everywhere you look at for Ben. And so there is a chance that his garden and what's in it could change,
Has changed.
In a night.
It has changed.
Yeah. So it's that balance, right? And I actually thought, and I was going to talk to you about this, like if we I thought about like, well, why don't we push into September? But you're right back into that same spot of you're facing, that same type of weather challenge. And there's nothing you're going to do about that. So I said all of that to say, so FYI, but also if you're not doing this in August with us, also set yourself up for success. Consider the time where your garden thrives the most. Yeah. Right. Especially if this is your first year out doing this with us. Pick a time and make it a little bit easier for yourself. Pick a time where your garden is its most plentiful, right? And even with that, you're going to come back from this challenge thinking, well, maybe I could use a plenty of something else. And that's one of the big things we learned from it. So you could eat anything you want. You could use, as far as the rules, it just needs to be from your garden. You could trade, so if you have something that you want to give to someone and you want to get something from their garden, that's food. That's fine. It needs to be garden harvested. It doesn't have to be garden harvested today. It doesn't have to be garden harvested yesterday. It could be food that you've preserved, right? So that was a big help for me last year. But it needs to be from the garden. It doesn't have to be fancy because, we're not fancy people. But the full meal should be things like salt and oils and condiments. Yeah. It's okay if you're using that from your kitchen. That's fine.
No, I say you need to learn how to make olive oil. There it is. I'm joking. Yeah, I'm joking.
Yeah. Get to the ocean. Get that salt.
Right? So, and I do want to say that we've also added in, for me, if I go fishing and I catch it, then I can eat it, or it's not hunting season, but if I did, I could eat it or whatever. Or if
you've had something you've frozen that
right. But the idea of it is really to see what we're producing and if it's enough to sustain us. Look, one meal I hate to tell everybody, but you can go without a meal a day if you had to, and you're going to be okay. It's okay to be hungry. I tell this to my son all the time. Can I have a snack? Can I have a snack? And it's like, it's okay to be hungry. As a matter of fact, why don't you feel that pain so you can understand what a lot of the rest of the world goes through?
I actually came into this episode hungry just to be able to really express this.
To be fair, you do that every time. Yeah, it's about the thunderstorm here again. So, but yeah, it's just all about, because I don't know about you personally, but for me, that 1 month has shaped every single thing that I've talked about for the past year, be it on YouTube and on the podcast, on Instagram, anywhere. It really shaped and changed my life based off of one meal a day. That's weird. But and I couldn't even, truth be told, I couldn't even make it the whole month because my physical demands, my body needed more. And what I found myself doing was eating more at night to try and overcome it, and that's not exactly the best way for a brother such as myself to do. So I'm trying to, and I had to make the decision, and it was a tough decision. I was like, look, I can't do this anymore. I stopped. But this is a new year. The garden has changed, and within that, for instance, I started growing more proteins. And so I preserved those proteins, and now I can eat them during the month. So I anticipate a little bit more variety this time. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but I anticipate it.
I was going back to look up the definition of food security, remember? The reason why I wanted to look up the definition, and I'm just going to paraphrase it, it was having access to food that is nutritious and that meets your diet needs and desires, right? So again, I'm paraphrasing heavily there. And we hadn't really kind of looked at it in that way, going back to last year, but that was so key. So I had the volume that I needed, right? But by the time, how many cucumber and tomato salads can you eat, So I was struggling with the desire to continue to make a meal out of my garden. And it seems so counter to what we talk about every episode, what I do every time I'm hauling dirt, and it's like, I'm tired of eating this thing from my garden. And it was because there was such the balance of like, all right, in August, these are the things that are available, but also these are the limited things that are available. Because my garden is starting to really kick up. All of my summer vegetables are there. I still have plenty when it comes to like I mean, I clearly had greens in my garden last year in August, so it seems like, yeah, there's enough here, right? There are enough things. But then when you have to sit down and say, I'm going to put them on a plate, that really became more of a challenge. I think it wasn't until the later part of the month that I was able to get to potatoes even.
Yeah.
And because otherwise I didn't have like your traditional like pasta carbs, right? Rice, that wasn't a thing. That's not in my garden, right?
No. Well, I do know of a place where I could go harvest rice, but it'd be a real pain in the ass to go get it. So that's not going to happen. But, for me, there was a week during that month, and this is going to be a little tough, everybody, but my intestines were burning every day because I was eating jalapenos every day because that's all I had at one point because I had eaten everything else. I was like, damn, how many different ways can you do it? So, there's all these different things. And what it told, I've gardened for many, many years, and I was always on top of the world. You can't tell me nothing, growing all this food. And then when it came down to it, I was like, one meal a day and I'm tired of what I'm eating. Really?
Yeah. It was humbling.
It was very humbling. And it told me that in my eyes, my personal eyes, I'm not as successful as a gardener as I want to be, and it doesn't matter if you grow cucumbers and tomatoes only, good for you. That's your garden, your choices, your goals or whatever. But for me, my goals are to not only eat what comes out of my garden, but enjoy it in a perfect world, be able to sustain some part of my life off of it. And I just couldn't do that. Yeah. So
there's, and I'm going to experience this, I know, going into, August, there's a lot of retraining as well that comes along with this. Right. And I wasn't able to get kind of over the hump in 31 days. What do they say? It's 21 days to form a new habit. Well, not for the August challenge, because there is, when you think about like what you're drawn to instead of what was in your garden, it's not like it's some fantastical meal. Right. But you're used to eating the things that you want to eat. So it's not necessarily the answer for me in the example of I didn't have potatoes right away isn't necessarily I need to have more potatoes. I did plant more potatoes, but that's not necessarily the answer. It's also what are the other things in my garden that I could sub in to satisfy that, desire in that moment. Because potatoes are coming. You know what I'm saying? And this kind of ties into a bit of the way that you and your family eat when it comes to seasonal eating, And this isn't the formula or the recipe for everyone. But it's something that I'm shifting to, I don't want to be wasteful. I want to use what's in my garden. I want to grow the things that I'll enjoy. Ding. I want to grow the things that are going to be nutritious for me, right? If I want to fry up some things, I can do that. But when I look back and it's the quantity of some of the things that I'm growing, the math didn't math in August, right? And I'm not certain that I'm going to hit the mark this month either, coming up to August 2022. But I'm going to keep at it,
Yeah, I'm definitely not going to hit the mark, but I'm not going to miss it either, if that makes any sense. Because one thing that I did too last year is because of this challenge, I immediately changed the way that I garden. So the next time I could put a plant in, I started using this challenge as like a guide. And I immediately made changes to my garden in which now I can enjoy. We might as well take a few minutes now and talk about what we're going to be eating that we've already preserved from last year and this year that we can add into our meals now. Can you run through a quick list about that?
Yeah. So I already have harvested. I have both fresh and preserved greens, both kale and collards that are frozen. I have any number of sauces that you can count when it comes to tomato-based sauces that I've preserved. I still have a couple of peppers. So, kind of the rainbow, eating from the rainbow. So I have those things preserved. I may even have one or two sweet potatoes that are hanging on, And so the one thing that I still am going to struggle with is I don't have anything that's the truest of true protein, that's high levels of protein in my garden, so there's that.
I've got white potatoes, sweet potatoes. I've got, when I say white potatoes, I mean, it's going to be not many meals. Let's just put it that way. But, well, do you mind if I stop for a second and talk about that?
Yeah, no, please do.
So I had a potato harvest this year. It wasn't spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, but if I know for the next month I'm going to eat lunch every day and I would like to have potatoes, don't make a damn plate of potatoes. Use 2 potatoes, 2 small potatoes. Use 1. Spice it up, change it up. That's a really big thing. But I've got peaches that I canned. My peach tree first year, and I got 50 peaches off of it, so I made 5 cans and gorged on myself for the rest, so that was different. And I've got black-eyed peas, so the proteins was a big thing for me. So I've got the black-eyed peas that I dried from last year, never even touched them over the winter, so I've got 1.5 pounds of black-eyed peas that I can work my way through. So we can do that. And I've also got them fresh growing out there. I've never had them fresh, so maybe it'll be good. I don't know. But those are just...
And you also have eggs from your chickens, because that absolutely counts.
Yeah. I have eggs from the chickens, and I can eat eggs every day, and I probably will, to be honest. Now, actually, you know what? I will try to limit myself in order to spread the love. But this year's already setting up to be a little bit better than last year. It's not going to be fantabulous, but it's going to be a little bit better. Not to mention that I've got another butternut squash that is just outrageous. So hopefully I'll be eating a butternut squash. We took a year off from it, so I haven't had butternut squash in a year, so I'm good. But I also don't have cucumbers this year. No cucumbers.
Oh, okay. Which, and this is another thing when it comes to as you think about what you want to grow going forward. Because if you do this challenge for the 31 days or however many days are in the month you do it, if you do it for 2 weeks, if you do it for a week, you're going to come away. I don't know that there's much value in doing it less than a week, but you're going to come away with this and start to even think about some of the things you're growing in plenty, So the cucumbers were great because I was getting tomatoes around that time once we got to the mid to the end of the month, but I realized the volume that I had really wasn't the volume that I needed, when it came to this challenge. Like I basically had many, many more cucumbers and I could have enjoyed something else. Now, fortunately, the challenge doesn't just change what you grow. It sometimes changes the way you grow them. So I drastically cut back in how many, as an example, cucumbers I grew. Now, there are 2 things that happened. It was my original design and plan, and then it even got cut further because what I tried to direct sow, all of it didn't germinate. But I said, I'm okay with that because I kind of know, I'm thinking about what it's going to produce, how I'm going to use it, and that's okay. Let's focus our energy on something else. Those are kind of tidbits of what you can expect to come out of this challenge, kind of learning about you and your garden.
Yeah. So, use this as a time to really analyze your garden and enjoy. And this is something that we should do every year if you're serious about growing and you're trying to grow for your family and stuff like that. The addition to proteins to my gardens really made a big difference in the way that I garden. And actually, 2 things. So we're talking a lot about preservation and stuff, and I'm gonna announce this a couple times on these shows. I just did. It should be out. I'll try and put it out the Thursday after this show comes out. That how to can tomatoes, but I'm also going to go through in the process of canning, and I've already shot it and everything, and it break down everything for it. So it's a good one to like bookmark and stuff like that. And also did another one about the different proteins that I'm growing in my garden from last year. So the only difference is one of them, the timing is for the challenge is way off. So I'm going to have to I'm going to have to tweak that a little bit, which is not a bad thing because I can just change the way that the time that I plant and I can get them to come up at the same, come into harvest. So it's just this is the first year that I've grown all these proteins that I'm growing. So it's going to be interesting. But all of those things said, this is a good way to learn about your garden and learn about what you can grow and maybe even expand your garden, which will in turn expand your knowledge, which will in turn expand your database of things and how different plants grow inside of your garden. And it's just going to help you be more successful by challenging yourself. Just remember, it's okay if your plate's not full. It's okay if you're a little hungry. And it may be okay if you lose a pound or two. If you're like me, I could shed one. So there you go.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, I'll join you. If the garden gods are offering a few pounds of weight loss, I'll join you there.
There you go.
So again, it is a meal. You decide what that meal is composed of from your garden. You decide when you eat that meal. I would, if I'm you, capture pictures, right? Capture the moment, because you're going to want to look back and say, what in the hell was I eating on day 10? You know, like, and how did that differ, right? It's very easy to feel good in the moment. And then you look back and you realize you have a plate of spaghetti squash for 10 days.
Yeah.
And that doesn't quite feel great. So hashtag BYG meals, MEALS. We want to see you on Instagram. We'll be sharing some of what we do. Right?
Not all of
no
it.
pressure. Yeah, not all of it. Some of it. No pressure. You know, if you want to do this in private, feel free to. It's your thing. But trust and believe you will be a different and better gardener for it. So that's my word.
I'm going to put 2 requests out there. So one, if you feel up to it, definitely send us pictures of your meals to Backyard Gardens and we'll share them. Also, if you do any reels, tag us in them or something like that. We can do remix or something. We're curious about what you're eating, but what I'm more curious about, and because I understand what Batavia said, like this is because look, the first year we did it mostly privately. We definitely talked about it, but it wasn't like what you would expect. But I would really like to know what you've learned from it. So if you can sum that up somehow, and then we'll probably come on and say something again. I would like to know what somebody's learned from it. And maybe, dude, if you're totally happy with the way your garden's producing and what you've made, and that's what I want to hear.
Yeah, well, tell us how your garden is set up, because you cracked the code for you and your garden. That's right. That's the key.
That's right. So without further ado, everybody.
Oh, see ya.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. Please follow us on YouTube at Backyard Gardens TV,
Instagram at Backyard Gardens TV, over on our website, backyardgardenstv.com, and then we have Patreon at Backyard Gardens.
And don't forget to check out our links below to help the show. Thank you so much for joining us as we learn to grow and grow for change. Cut.
Now you know why people feel like celebrating at harvest time.
All over the world, people have feasting and good times when the crops have been gathered in.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for checking out the Backyard Gardens podcast.
If you like what we're doing and you want to continue to support the podcast, head over to our Patreon page to sign up.
You can also make a one-time donation using PayPal. Both of these links are in the description.
With your support, we can continue growing and helping others in their gardens. See ya.
If you guys want some Backyard Gardens gear,
go to the link below and check out our t-shirts, mugs, pint glasses, and other gear.
All purchases go towards helping to support the show, so thank you so much in advance, and we hope you enjoy. We want everybody to have a garden, and we're going to give you a chance to win free seeds every month.
Head over to backyardgardenstv.com and enter your email address to be entered in all of our giveaways.
Good luck!
We want you to be a part of our gardening community. DM us a picture of your garden at Backyard Gardens TV on Instagram, and we will share it with our listeners.